Sunday Meditation, April 25th, 1982. LL Research, channeling Hatonn and Latwii. Carla, channeling. I am Hatonn, and I greet you, my friends, in the love and in the light of our infinite Creator. What a blessing and privilege it is to be with you this evening. We especially send our greetings to the one known as S, whom we have not spoken to through this instrument for some time. We thank you for your patience, my friends. We are again with this instrument. We wished to delay for some brief moments while each of you is made more comfortable. This evening, we would speak to you of your rainbow beings and that which you call sin. As you proceed in your meditations and in your reflections upon your daily lives, you will no doubt grasp the fact that when you achieve something in your inner life, it does not seem to be apparent in the outer planes of manifestation. This self-judgment is not only unnecessary, but in some cases unhelpful. When you are in meditation, you are within a point of light such as you visualized at the beginning of this session. This white light, so full of love and purity, enfolds you with peace and calmness, and indeed does lift up your consciousness into a realm which may be considered to be the kingdom of heaven. When you return from this state to your daily life, you return to a dazzling rainbow of experience. All the colors of experience, all the hues of feeling and emotion are available to you. The white light has been splintered into a visible range of a variety of experiences. The nature of what you call sin is twofold. Firstly, there is that which the entity which you may call your society names as sin. We examine this instrument's mind. Within this instrument's mind, it is a sin to wear checked material with patterned material when donning the clothes which your people feel are necessary to cover their bodies. This, my friends, is an apparent sin which has no meaning whatsoever. Many of those things which you do which are not acceptable to others fall in this category, having no spiritual reality. The other category of what you call sin is inherent of the nature of your rainbow being. You must understand yourself as containing everything. Whatever you see about you or hear in one of your news programs is a mirror to yourself. Do you hear of a rapist? You are he. Do you watch the trial of a murderer? You stand with that person waiting to be sentenced. Do you see about you those whose argumentative qualities are such that trouble follows them as a wake follows a fast-moving ship? You see the ripples of your being also. Each entity is potentially capable of all things. It is a function of your biases, your preferences, and the circumstances of your particular situation as to what will test you and what will call forth from you the reactions which you will later judge. In all cases, it is undeniable that each entity will at some point fail to polarize totally towards service to others. We speak not only of those in this room, we speak of all those in your density. All will fail from time to time. It is as understandable as one who enters your school system as a young child, and is asked to count 2 plus 2. The child works upon its fingers and says the answer is 5. This is the nature of what you call sin. It is an error. There is no judgment necessary for an error. We would ask, my friends, that as you look at yourselves, instead of judging yourselves, you simply make note of any errors that you feel you may have committed, any defaults that you may have sustained in striving towards love and light, so that at the next testing, you will not repeat the error. And yet, my friends, if you repeat the error again, you are only exhibiting one hue of a magnificent rainbow. You are still a portion of the Creator. You still have the birthright of the great wholeness and perfection of that white light, and you can, at any moment, by an act of will and faith, remove your consciousness from that of judgment and self and others into that vision of the white light which sees all things as whole. My friends, it is written in the holy work that you call the Bible that the Master known as Jesus was an advocate for your sins. This sentence and those like it have caused many among your peoples to fear greatly the great array of possibly sinful acts, and to put their trust and their hope in one who was both man and Christ consciousness. We offer to you the possibility for your consideration that the entity known to you as Jesus, being the perfect example of one who saw the white light during a great portion of his life, may then offer to you the shining lodestar, that which may be seen as example and inspiration. For this Christ consciousness, as you may call it, is within you, also just as all the errors and all the mistakes have their place in your being. You may call in your mind upon an outside influence. You may put your trust and your faith outside of yourself. But we say to you, my friends, to the best of our understanding, all is within yourself, including the Master known to you as Jesus. Why is it that among your peoples it is so easy for you to see yourselves as sinful? Which is true within the bounds of your language, and is so difficult for you to see yourselves as perfect, which is also true within your language. Have you looked kindly upon yourself this day, my friends? And have you looked kindly upon others? Have you seen the rainbow? Ah, my friends, the colors are so lovely and beautiful. And it is with the greatest love that we rejoice in each of you, just as you are in what you would call an imperfect state. Let yourselves too rejoice in the uniqueness of your being, and doggedly and quietly and confidently continue that patient path of finding the white light that has been splintered into every color that you see about you. At this time, we would like to exercise the one known as S. If he would relax, we shall work with him at this time. I am Hatonn. S. Channeling. I am Hatonn. I wish only to say a few words so that the one known as S can develop his confidence in his service to others. I am Hatonn. Carla, channeling. I am Hatonn. and am again with this instrument. We thank the one known as S for making himself available to us. We assure him that we shall continue to work with him. Before we leave this group, we would like to work briefly with each who wishes the conditioning wave. We ask that each mentally request this wave if you would wish it, and we and our brothers and sisters of Lighthouse will be with you. I am Hatonn. I am Hatonn, and am again with this instrument. We shall leave you with this thought. You are rainbow beings. You may consider yourself as you wish. You may spend your life concerning yourself with how far you have fallen short of the perfection of the Creator. You may scold yourself unceasingly, and, having made yourself miserable, may spend a most productive life creating misery for others. Or you may look deeper. How deeply do you wish to look within the colors and the hues? Do you fear that you will find darkness? Be unafraid. You are creatures of the one infinite Creator, creatures of the light that is so powerful that the universe is one and you are one with it. How then can you fear? Whatever you do and have done, and whatever you shall do, does indeed fall short of yourself. How many people vary from your requests of them? Look closely and deeply and carefully, and find the source of the rainbow. Every cell of your body is greatly composed of water, infused with the white light that surrounds you. How brightly shall you radiate rainbows of being. I leave you now, my brothers and sisters, in the love and the light of our Creator. I am known to you as Hatonn, and speak only as we hope and trust the Creator has given us to speak. Do with these words what you will, for we are but fallible beings. Yet we offer them to you along with our love. I am Hatonn. Adonai Vasu Boragas. Jim, channeling. I am Latwii, and greet each of you in the love and the light. It is our privilege once again to join this group to offer our service in attempting to answer the questions which each of you have brought with you this evening. We would now ask if there might be a question which we might attempt to answer. K. Yes, let's talk about the white light. If I judge myself because I have failed in something, and if I judge my fellow man, I understand that I diminish the white light about me, and I am somehow of a negative influence as I move about people. Do I understand that pretty well? Latwii. I am Latwii. My sister, we may say that in general your grasp of this concept is correct. And we may comment further by suggesting that the activity that you may call judgment does provide a barrier through which efforts to proceed in the evolutionary process are halted for as long as that barrier restrains them by its existence. By this, we mean to say when an entity judges the self or any other entity, the entity, then, is affirming the illusion of separation in that the entity is saying one person or activity is less than another and is to be shunned, when in truth all beings and activities are one. To accept the self no matter what the activity or behavior or thought, is to accept the self or another entity as part of the one creator. It is not to say that certain behaviors or thoughts cannot be improved upon to reflect ever more closer the unity with all beings, but is to say whatever the experience an entity encounters, whether within the self or within the other self, the entity is seeing the creator experiencing itself. The entity is seeing the opportunity for growth into further realization of that unity presented. To fully utilize that opportunity for growth, one must, if one travels the positive path, accept the activity, the self, and any other self involved. For this acceptance then reaffirms the unity of all creation. May we answer you further, my sister? K. No, that's a good answer, thank you. Latwii. I am Latwii. We are most grateful to you as well. Is there another question at this time? J. Lately I have been having dreams that have been coming true, and I was wondering, maybe, if I may have a certain ability. Could you explain this a little to me? Latwii. I am Latwii, and am aware of your question, my sister. We may comment only generally upon this most interesting topic. We might suggest that, indeed, as does each entity, you have certain abilities. These abilities are focused about the general concept of being of service to others. In your particular case, you have a certain openness, a certain receptivity to messages from planes of existence which are normally considered outside the one which you presently inhabit. You are now developing this receptivity in order to be of service to those about you. And this development is, shall we say, making itself known in certain ways which are becoming more familiar to you. But these ways are not themselves the heart of your ability, but only reflections of that ability, much as though one would see a scene reflected in a mirror. Your abilities lie deeper within your being, and are of a nature which shall be most helpful in your future, as you would call it, as you begin to bring through certain inspirations and ideas from deeper parts of your own being and other realms, shall we say. May we answer you further, my sister? J. No, I think I understand. Thank you very much. Latwii. I am Latwii. We thank you very much. Is there another question at this time? S. I have a question. I need some information about this, and I would also like to have your recommendations on this about a friend of mine who I believe to have contact with the Orion group. Could you explain to me how I should encounter him or interact with him in daily activities, and explain to me what his contact is? Latwii. I am Latwii, and am aware of your query, my brother. First of all, we may not, shall we say, engage in judgment of the source of any type of contact such as that which you now speak of. For to do so would be to lend a heavy, shall we say, opinion upon the mind of another entity, and weigh the judgment or discernment in such a fashion as to abridge the entity's free will. Concerning the second portion of your query, we might suggest that when you meet any entity which is of special concern to you, that you treat such an entity as being your own self, which is to say, the acceptance of such an entity is of paramount importance. If you feel in your daily round of activities and interactions with this entity that you might be of service by sharing those concepts which are cherished by your own being, this you may do. There might also be some suggestion concerning your understanding of how information can be helpful to entities hearing it. You might share, as with any entity, those feelings which are part of your being, but all the while remembering that you speak to yourself. You speak to the Creator, and all words have only the value which the ear hearing them gives them. And each ear and each entity has the right to hear and to act according to its own desires. For each entity is the one Creator experiencing the creation and learning those lessons it deems important. May we answer you further, my brother? S. That's helpful, what you have said so far. I have another query in the same area. Should I feel any kind of fear in this interacting towards... I was reading in the raw work about a possible lessening of our positivity because of this interaction. Should I be afraid of that? Or should I look at this as possibly a catalyst in helping myself learn, and possibly this other individual? Latwii. I am Latwii, and we are aware of your question, my brother. To begin, there is no need for fears, for fear is that energy which is most used and fed upon by those entities you describe as negative. The method or means of interaction with any entity to be most helpful to all concerned must needs be that action which reflects love, acceptance, and compassion for all concerned. For this reaffirms the path of positivity, the reality of the unity of all creation. To fear is to assume that the illusion of separation is correct. For to fear is to engage in that separation by feeling some part of the unity stands apart from yourself and is other than yourself and has some intention of harming you. Though there are those within the creation of the Father which pursue this path and would intend such harm, it is but an illusion to those who travel the path of positivity. For those on this path, within the heart of their beings, know that all is one and that there is no need for fear of the self. May we answer you further, my brother? S. That's a big help. Is there, by interacting with this individual, will any harm come to our group? Latwii. I am Latwii, and am aware of your question, my brother. Side 1 of the tape recording this session ends here. We pick up on Side 2 with Jim channeling Latwii. I am Latwii, and am once again with this instrument. To continue, we may not predict your future, for we are unable to determine the path which an entity may take. Therefore, the effect is unknown, though we might suggest the chances are quite small, given your present orientation, that there would be any deleterious effect on this group. May we answer you further, my brother? S. Thank you. It helps a lot. Latwii. I am Latwii. We are most grateful to you as well. May we ask if there might be another question at this time? K. Would you comment on the prevalence of cancer? I have so many friends who have died of cancer, and there seems to be no cure that we know of so far. Why so much cancer? Latwii. I am Latwii, and am aware of your query, my sister. The cycle of evolution, which is now ending upon your planet, shall be finished, shall we say, by those entities which have the greatest chances of graduating from this cycle into the next. These entities now incarnate and have been incarnating upon your planet for some time. Such entities, before incarnation, realize that there is a certain distance, shall we say, that must be traveled, certain lessons that must be learned before the graduation may be achieved. Therefore, these entities are most likely to program great opportunities for learning into their incarnations. These opportunities serve as catalysts for growth in a great variety of ways. At this time upon your planet, there are catalysts of great intensity being provided by such entities for the learning of the lessons needed for graduation. One of these catalysts, as those who have read further in what you term the raw material have discovered, is the catalyst known as cancer. The cancerous growth is usually a result of an entity's inability to balance the emotion which you call anger with the emotion that you call love. Those entities who feel the anger, the frustration, the heat of the emotion of separation for any other entity or for the self, or even a situation, are providing themselves with the catalyst known as cancer. If the entity is unable to accept, forgive, and love that entity or situation for which the anger was first felt, the anger is like the cells within the body which begins in one location. Fed by the great reservoir of energy known as anger, the cells begin to grow and spread, nourished by the heat of the anger. And when this anger, then, is not balanced with love, the cancerous condition does begin to consume the entity which first began the generation of anger. For each entity upon your planet is every other entity. And when anger is felt toward any, it is reflected to the self. And this reflection of the heat of anger does then begin to consume the entity which began it. The simple cure, as you would call it, for that catalyst known as cancer, then, is the acceptance, the forgiveness, the loving of that which first felt the anger. May we answer you further, my sister? K. No, I had a notion that that was true, but I have a lot more insight now. And one further, it's almost a follow-up on this question. Because I have had this back pain for so long, sometimes worse, sometimes better, I asked the Christ consciousness a couple of weeks ago to remove it and heal my body, because the New Testament indicates that that is possible. And the thought came, heal yourself. Would you comment on that? Latwii. I am Latwii, and am aware of your query, my sister. Any ailment, be it physical, mental, or even that known as spiritual, has a lesson to teach. The lesson most generally has to do with the acceptance of the creation, some aspect of yourself, some aspect of the creation with which one is intimately concerned. Certain ailments reflect those lessons which have been programmed before the incarnation to serve as, shall we say, training aids, so that the entity might not forget the need to learn that lesson. Other ailments are, when in the physical vehicle, simply symbolic representations of the frame of mind which has not yet been able to accept a portion of itself. In each case, the injunction to heal the self is another means of saying to the self that there is some portion of the self that needs to be accepted as part of the self, whole and perfect. And when this acceptance is made deep within the heart of the being, then the entity shall realize the unity of that portion with the self and with all creation, and shall be healed of that known as the ailment, which served to point out that which needed to be accepted. Oftentimes, all that is necessary is the faith, shall we say, in an entity known as a healer. At other times, it is necessary that more work be done upon the self by the self. The intensity of the lesson to be learned determines the intensity of the effort necessary for the entity wishing to be healed to make. May we answer you further, my sister? K. That's what I thought, but you've given extra information. That's helpful. Thanks a lot. Latwii. I am Latwii. We thank you. Is there another question at this time? S. I have a couple of other questions that won't take long. The first question is that for the last day or so, I have felt extremely warm and my hands have gotten real cold. And this has happened on other occasions, and I have wondered if somehow I might be sending light because of the Falkland Island crisis. In the past, I felt extreme warmth when the president had that assassination attempt, and the other time when there was an assassination attempt on him. Is this warmth somehow sending light to these crisis situations? Latwii. I am Latwii, and am aware of your query, my brother. Though each entity has its own unique means of dealing with those situations which your peoples call crises, we may not comment upon the particular means of any specific entity in its response to such a situation. For it is most important for each entity to look upon those experiences of its complex of mind, body, and spirit for its own inner guidance. We may suggest beginning with the supposition which you have just articulated in your meditative state and allowing that supposition to travel its own path in your mind, thereby revealing to your own awareness the cause of the sensations which you have explained. May we answer you further, my brother? S. That explains that. Thank you on that. I have another question. I was reading in the raw materials about blockages that occur in our energy centers. This will probably be in violation of my free will, and you can't answer it. But can you tell me if I have any major blockages now? Latwii. I am Latwii, and am aware of your query, my brother. We may begin by agreeing that to comment upon the specific configuration of an entity's energy centers would be an infringement. For each entity must find these blockages and begin the process of balancing through its own efforts. Otherwise, there would be no reward for the entity to reap. The reward, then, would go to our complex, and we would not wish to take this from another. We might suggest, in general, that if an entity exists upon your planet in the third density, the entity has blockages in the energy centers. For this is simply another way of expressing the fact that each entity has incarnated to learn certain lessons. Before a lesson can be learned, there must needs be the distortion called a blockage of the knowing or the learning of that lesson. A bias must exist in one direction before it might be balanced with a bias in another direction. Each entity, therefore, seeks to learn what configuration of blockages is unique unto its own being. When an entity becomes consciously aware that it seeks to evolve in mind, body, and spirit, then the entity is ready to travel that path through the energy centers, which shall reveal to the entity those areas that are blocked, those areas that are open, and shall reveal to the entity the path of its own unique spiritual journey. May we answer you further, my brother? S. As a start towards discovering my blockages, or maybe analyze these biases better, which I recognize right away that I've had them, that I consciously recognized this in the past, probably through my daily meditation, I can better understand these blockages and study these biases. As for my third question, in the raw materials, it talks about one of the ways the Confederation makes contacts now is through the dreams, what we call dreaming. And I was wondering, a friend of mine this week, the last couple of months, I have noticed a very definite spiritual growth, and this last week he did some sleepwalking and woke up with somewhat of a positive message. Was this an example of what I referred to in the raw materials? Latwii. I am Latwii, and am aware of your query, my brother. We do not mean to be short, shall we say, of information, but again find it an infringement to comment upon a specific experience. For experiences of this nature occur to entities for the very purpose of providing a mystery which must be solved. The entity so experiencing this mystery, then, hopefully shall be intrigued to pursue the mystery to its solution. The path of pursuing this mystery does then provide the entity with an exercising of the spiritual desire to seek the truth. To exercise this desire is to strengthen it, and in the seeking shall come the fruits of the seeking. And when the mystery has been solved, then that portion of the seeking will have served its purpose for the entity. We might suggest, in general, that experiences such as this experience are those which can be used by Confederation entities, by personal guides, shall we say, and by other portions of the entity's own being, those portions being within the subconscious mind. Each of these particular types of communication has a purpose, in that it provides a mystery which then inspires the seeking further. May we answer you further, my brother? S. I just want to thank you. Latwii. I am Latwii. We thank you. Is there another question at this time? M. I have a question. I should be grateful because I never have any physical pains, but I would like to get more energy. Is there any particular pattern or method that a person can use to obtain more energy? Latwii. I am Latwii, and am aware of your query, my sister. That which you seek as the increase of the energy level of your complex of mind, body, and spirit has many potential sources of increase. We could spend a great deal of time explaining each, but this would be the work of many sessions such as this one. In general, we may comment by suggesting that the care of the vehicle that you inhabit in its physical and mental forms, by the proper and unique configuration of food intake, of rest, of exercise, and of the stimulation of the mind complex in its developing of a framework for the spiritual energies to pass through, are, of course, the most general and helpful means of increasing the energy levels of your complex of mind, body, and spirit. As an entity undertakes the path of the spiritual seeker, these general suggestions may be altered, for each entity shall experience those sensations of the vehicle which it inhabits, which will reflect the, shall we say, efficiency of learning those lessons which it has incarnated to learn. Therefore, as an entity becomes more conscious of its own spiritual seeking, those suggestions which we have given as general guidelines might be greatly altered depending upon the entity's unique means of learning lessons and upon the entity's success in learning those lessons. For example, it might be that as an entity becomes more sensitive to its environment, as it becomes more attuned to the unity of all creation, that certain foods in their grosser forms might need to be eliminated from the diet. When in the beginning stages of the seeking, these foods were felt to be most helpful and provided the necessary ingredients for the energizing of the vehicle. Therefore, we cannot say specifically what would be most helpful for increasing the energy levels of your own complex of mind, body, and spirit. For to do this would be an infringement upon your own seeking, which you now undertake. We may comment in general upon your desire to increase this level of energy by suggesting that within your meditative state, you may be able to discern those means of increasing that energy level by certain activities. This type of meditation might begin by viewing the entity which is yourself as it proceeds through its day and encounters that known as fatigue, and view this process as a series of lessons that are being attempted. By gaining the overview, shall we say, of your particular means of learning, you may also increase those levels of energy you now feel are in deficit. May we answer you further, my sister? M. No, thank you for answering me very well. Thank you. Latwii. I am Latwii. We thank you. Is there another question at this time? I am Latwii. We are most gratified to have been able to speak with your group this evening. We thank each entity present for allowing us to attempt to respond in our meager way to those concerns that are upon your minds. We wish each to know that we value greatly each query for our possible response. We know that each entity present brings these queries as treasures of their own being in which they feel there is lack of completeness, and which they seek to complete in perfection. We wish each entity to know that the perfection of the being which you are at the heart of your seeking is that perfection which has always existed within your being and shall always be there. The questions which you ask are simply the means by which you shall eventually realize that perfection. We are honored that you have asked us to join you in that seeking, and we ask each entity to remember that the true answers to any question you may ask already exist within the heart of your being, and you shall find them as you continue to ask your questions. We leave this group now in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We shall look forward to being with you again. We are known to you as Latwii. We leave you now. Adonai, Vasu, Boragas.
Go forth then, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one infinite Creator.